Everyone emotionally eats. You know why? Because we are emotionally energetic human beings. One of my favorite examples of emotional eating is when my family and I go out for ice cream. I can't tell you if I have a single memory of ever being upset about having ice cream. But more often than not, emotional eating is paired with negative emotions like depression, sadness, loneliness, anxiety, anger, and stress. The reason for this kind of piggybacks on what I shared in the binge eating video around our emotional connection to receiving food as love when we are tiny children and infants. Every time something sweet comes into our mouth, it stimulates a brain chemical, serotonin, oxytocin, and we're kind of flooded back with that instantaneous feeling of connection and love. Salty snacks kind of do the similar thing. Chomp, chomp, chew, chew gives us a feeling of dopamine, kind of like this addictive hit, like, ooh, I want more of that. In my family, we kind of joke around, and the nickname is, it's very moreish, meaning I want more. So what can be done about emotional eating? I always like to say, start with awareness. This is really helpful when you keep a food journal. Like my story that I shared with the binge eating episode, by keeping a food journal, you're already aware of what you're eating in your food choices. The tricky thing is holding this attachment to being perfect, and so not following through on the journal. One of the things you can do on your food journal is write down how you're feeling when you are eating or preluding the type of food choices that you make. The other thing that I think is really helpful is to identify what your triggers are. Like I shared in the previous video, my triggers were not having my husband around, left over from early childhood abandonment. But sometimes we can have many other different types of triggers. Stress, anger, maybe it's our job, maybe it's lack of sleep. We know that there's a handful of key things that the human really needs. Sleep, rest, hydration, healthy nourishment, and connection. When one of those things is missing, or maybe not going well, we often have an emotional response. Those emotional responses are here to alert us, to helping us find harmony. Anywhere in your life where there's a relationship, cause and effect, use those emotional cues to help you guide yourself to find harmony. If you're feeling sad, oftentimes sadness is a normal part of grief. Maybe you need to express that grief through a letter. Maybe you need to call a loved one. Sometimes we just need to feel sad, and that's okay too. Recognizing we're having an emotional experience, and also recognizing that it's okay to hold this emotion, allowing it to pass, allowing it to process, remembering that we don't necessarily need to just try to fix this emotion with an outside resource, such as chocolate, candy, etc., can be a really empowering process. So once we've recognized that we're having an emotional experience, and we know that we have a tendency to reach towards a food to emotionally eat to help us feel better in the moment, now you're at the level where now you can find a healthier alternative. Something like a stressful work environment. Maybe I need to call up a supportive person, somebody that can hear me and express my grievances to. Maybe I need a supportive friend, someone who has already been through something that I've been through and has already made the correct life decisions to move on and choose something better in their lives. Maybe I feel a lot of stress and I need to go for a walk. Maybe I'm feeling a lot of anger and I need to get some aggression out. What I like to do when I feel angry is I like to go lift weights at the gym. There's something really empowering about being strong and embodying this warrior body that then knows that I can handle anything that comes my way. Sometimes when I'm feeling stress, what I really need is just deep relaxation. Maybe I take a hot bath, maybe I drink tea, maybe I go to a restorative yoga class, such as a yin class. Yin is a wonderful type of yoga practice because there's no strength to it at all. The antithesis to what I just described about lifting weights to get out some of that anger and aggression, this is the opposite. You lie on a bolster, your heart is open, your hips are open, and you just deep breathe and melt into the ground. So really just depending on what our bodies need. is how you should think about how you want to approach these healthier alternatives. Another common emotion that leads to emotional eating is boredom. Now, it's kind of not really natural to think about boredom as an emotion, but what it is just simply not being interested in what's going on around you and not being present. So here we need to tie it back down to awareness again. But if you're acknowledging the fact that you're just snacking because you need something to do, then the invitation is find something creative. Find a hobby. Find something to do. As humans, it's perfectly fine to accept that distraction is good medicine. Loneliness is another emotion tied to emotional eating. As I shared in the previous video with my experience with binge eating, it really just comes down to giving yourself enough grace and self-compassion so that you recognize that you are worthy of love and you may love yourself fully. When we're lonely, we might need to pick up the phone instead of reaching for the pantry. You can call your siblings, your friends, your parents. Just keep going through the list until you get somebody on the line who will talk to you. You can talk about anything you want to feel connection. Pets can be great resources, children, partners. These are all wonderful resources to help you not feel lonely. Another negative emotion intimately connected to emotional eating is sadness and grief. When somebody passes away, it's often customary that someone will bring you food. Maybe this is a casserole, maybe it's a pie, but there is this innate human tendency to want to provide for each other to process through grief and sadness. So just accept it and just trust that sadness is just a part of human life. It's a part of a natural experience. There's a good reason that you're sad. You probably loved this person or grieving moving to a new place. Maybe you're grieving that you're moving jobs. Maybe you're grieving a relationship. It's perfectly okay to accept that this is a part of life and that we're sad now, and then trust that you won't be sad forever. To find a healthy alternative for sadness, I really invite you to think about what brings you joy. Maybe this is reading a book. Maybe this is painting. Maybe this is going for a walk with a friend. Maybe this is taking a vacation or a holiday. It's perfectly normal to find healthy alternatives to distract us and help us move through our emotions. But it's also really healthy to acknowledge what those emotions are and put them in their place. When we practice mindful eating, it doesn't matter what our emotional state is. We make a conscious choice, we reach for that choice, and then we eat it with exquisite mindfulness. Taking your time, enjoying and savoring the item that you just put in front of you is okay. But when we slow down, we recognize the emotion, we feel the emotion, and we accept the food in which we chose as part of this process, again, trust and surrender that it's going to be okay on the other side. The other thing that I recommend is that you keep healthy options available. If nighttime eating or grazing or emotional eating is a part of your life and you're still trying to practice and get awareness as to why and how and what to do about it, by keeping your fridge and your pantry stocked with healthy options, you're going to ensure a minimally processed diet, which will only improve your metabolism and fuel your body to make healthier choices as time goes on. The other thing that can be really, really helpful is to make sure that you aren't over-restricting yourself as punishment for something that you feel like you have shame and guilt over for overeating. When we over-restrict ourselves, we often set ourselves up for making these emotional eating mistakes or these binge eating mistakes. Remember what I did? The very next day, I sat down and I made a commitment to myself. I stayed disciplined that I was going to properly fuel and nourish myself correct for my body and my physiology. I didn't start my day with sweets, pancakes, or cinnamon rolls. Instead, I sat down and spent time chopping vegetables, making an omelet, and sitting down and enjoying it mindfully. And what that did is it regrounded me. It kept me on track. It made me feel like I was whole again. And I highly encourage that you try to practice the same.